You know what? We most certainly will, and we're getting right down to it. It is qualifying here at Chicagoland. Robin Glakis has the fastest lap currently, with about 3 minutes left. Before we get to qualifying and all of the current race standings, it's time to start talking about points. Jacob, there's the standings. Rashad Craig with a commanding lead over Logan Edwards. Seb Alexander for the front three. Anna Klimek, great move out of the Indy Pro Series. She is fourth. Jacob Oster on 4 starts rounds out the top 5. And remember, it is the best 8 out of 12, but it's probably time to start talking about and thinking about those point standings, Jacob.
Yeah, you got to imagine with the last couple of weeks here, there's going to be people who have maybe kind of hit all the tracks that they wanted to hit this season. You might see less people starting to come up towards the end of the season, so it's going to be wanting to get those points in early and when the coming's good. So gotta start thinking big picture.
Most certainly do, and I know Rashad is thinking big picture. So is Logan Edwards. That's been a huge surprise here for us to see a guy like Logan Edwards, a driver who's pretty doggone good in all sorts of cars. He doesn't really have the huge team backing that some of the others do. He's given a great account of himself in second, and I've been absolutely applauding the rise of the TMR crew, the Taylor Mills Racing crew. Anna Klimek, she's doing herself very proud with that fourth place in the championship, and she is in the field tonight. Now, one of the things, Collins, that I'm noticing here right off the bat is, yes, we are expecting a pack-ish race, but it is a short field. 17 cars, is it, Jacob?
Yes.
So 17 cars here tonight for Chicagoland, and that is not a lot. Especially when you talk about a pack race. You get one missed lick, you could have half the field or more be taken out in just one incident. And so these drivers will have to mind their P's and Q's. The other thing that we're going to be looking for to break up that pack, tire degradation. Jacob, are the tires going to fall off here?
Well, if it's anything like it was in the Oval Series a couple weeks ago, I'd imagine longer run you will start to see some tire fall off. The question is do you get that deep in the run to start with, and how many people kind of fall subject to using their stuff up early in the run? You know, a lot of these guys might have accounted for a longer run trying to make those tires last, or are going to play it a bit safer over the course of the run. You know, things like fuel saving, especially with this longer race distance that the Oval Series tends to see. There may be guys that are able to run a bit more conservative on their fuel and not use the tires as heavily. So there's a bit more that plays into it here in the Open Series with about the half distance races that we get here. So it's going to be who can play their cards right all 125 laps.
It is. Speaking of playing their cards, we're on the roll bar. Matt Hollibaugh, the number 1 machine in tonight's race. He's out for his qualifying lap. Jacob, no surprise, right around the bottom of the Chicagoland Speedway here for Matt Hollibaugh.
Yeah, you're basically trying to cut as little distance around this place as you can on those qualifying laps especially.
Most certainly will. Matt Hollibaugh, he went to 5th quick. And that'll lead us into the starting grid tonight. 125 laps. That's going to be started by AJ Musselman, 220.074 miles an hour. Alan Boutreau, he's going to start in second. Casey Povolonis is going to roll third. Logan Edwards, second place in points. He'll be fourth. Matt Hollibaugh, Chad Simpson are going to make up row number 3. They're going to be followed by Anna Klimek and Chris Nienow in row 4. Row 5, Will Stearns makes his return to the Indy Open Series. He'll be inside of Frank Wynn in row 5. In 11th, Uncle Rob, Robin Glakis, 218.238. Lith Fox will start 12th next to Rob. Seb Alexander, he'll roll 13th. Alexander, Tyquila, Rashad Craig, Ella Spice, and Will Weiser, as we look at it, did not take time. Strategery already happening, Jacob, and we haven't even gotten off the grid yet.
Yeah, I think a number of guys, knowing kind of the nature of this race, might opt to hang towards the back of the field early on, maybe just mind their P's and Q's and hang out for a little while, get a feel for where they feel like they can put their cars in the best spot come the latter portions of this race. Obviously, you know, if we're expecting the field to stay pretty bunched up for the opening couple stages. It's likely that as long as they can hold on to the draft, they won't go too far.
No, and that's the name of the game here at Chicago. Stay in the draft. Try to stay in the draft. Maybe try to save some fuel. We anticipate the typical fuel window here at Chicago, 45, maybe 55 laps if you really push it. Jacob, I can't see anybody going any longer than that. Very, very outside chance you're going to have somebody try a one-stopper if they get an early yellow. But I don't expect anything. I don't expect anything like that to happen as we file back through the field. Everybody has taken the grid. Nobody starting from pit lane. And away we go, Jacob. Are you ready for 125 laps here at Chicagoland?
As ready as we'll ever be.
Very good. Thankfully, the artwork at this track was not updated with the latest update. We had a fun time in the AMA broadcast at Dover last week. Jacob, the artwork update made one of the grandstands disappear, and so all of the drivers, as well as the broadcast, we were fighting a crowd that was floating in thin air. That was fun. Nothing in thin air, though, now. 17 IndyCars getting ready to take to a virtual Chicagoland. This track is not currently in use. At one point, it was the season ender for IndyCars. It was a huge crowd here. I've been at IndyCar races here where this place was packed. That was back in the NASCAR heyday. You had to buy a personal seat license in order to have the NASCAR tickets, and so the IndyCar races were full really up until the late 2000s. The seat licenses went away, crowds went down, IndyCar left, NASCAR did too. This track also, at one point, Jacob, it had a standalone Xfinity weekend. As we get ready to roll toward the green flag, AJ Musselman has the field under command, and we are racing at Chicago. Everyone safely through turn number one. Now, one of the things you'll notice, fans, as they go along down the backstretch here at Chicagoland, it is not straight, is it, Jacob?
No, it's a certified D-shaped oval, kind of that backstretch. The wall kind of bows outward a little bit, and you kind of run flat up against it off the corners. So that's also kind of a thing that the drivers will have to look out for as we see cars start to head towards the high side of the racetrack.
Yeah, they most certainly do, and that's something that you're going to be looking for is maybe clean air on those wings. The weather is not bad here. 81 degrees in the air, 107 on the track. There is no wind. It is mostly cloudy. You could not ask, Jacob, for better conditions to run an IndyCar race.
No, you certainly could not. A nice cool track's going to kind of give us the best of all worlds here, seemingly, as we'll see guys try to keep the tires underneath of them. But imagining that it won't be too difficult to do so, just given that it's a bit cooler than we may see in some other instances at this track. So we'll have to see if that plays into a factor over the course of a longer run, potentially.
We will indeed. Did want to jump up on the roll hoop of Seb Alexander. He's blinking a little bit, but he's taking that Indy Alliance machine to the front. He did not qualify, started out back. Seb Alexander already up to 7th as he works the high side here on Logan Edwards. Working the high side on Logan Edwards. He's up at the very top of the speedway. He's going to jump on the top of Casey Provolonis, put him in the middle 3 wide. Next up on the hit parade, Alan Bruteau. And it's not going to be long before Seb Alexander has that Indy Alliance machine up toward the front.
Yeah, he's kind of put his car in a spot nobody else had, kind of in the train of cars, is that most people kind of congregated towards the bottom of the racetrack. So he's been able to roll a really nice wide arc through the corners and probably carry a good bit of momentum. The bigger question will be is will people continue to kind of pull him along down the straightaways, especially coming off the corners.
There you see the serial started 13th, already up to 6th, looking for 5th. He's been to the high side of Logan Edwards for much of this event. Now he's going to get the draft off of Alan Bruteau. He'll pull to the high side of Bruteau, make it Seb Alexander going for 4th now on the field. The front 4 are Musselman, Hollybaugh, Simpson, and Boutreau. And those drivers up here toward the front, Jacob, they're more or less single file. They're content to run the bottom. Alexander is the Pied Piper up on that top line as he continues now trying to work forward on Alan Boutreau. He is going to get there, move Alexander to fourth, drop Boutreau back to fifth, and he's immediately got problems with Casey Povolonis.
Yeah, you've got to wonder how long are guys going to be willing to stay on that bottom side as they kind of see the momentum build on the high side, as we see Boutreau maybe start to look a bit higher up on the racetrack.
We do indeed. Alexander now has Casey Povolonis to his outside. Povolonis is going to go for third. Now he's going to go for second. Alexander is going to duck underneath Chad Simpson. They're going to, or Matt Hollybaugh, excuse me. I thought that was Simpson for a second. That is Matt Hollybaugh. Alexander is going to duck under Matt Hollybaugh. Alexander wants to be the first car on the inside after leader A.J. Musselman. Musselman has led all 9 circuits so far, but Alexander is bringing the heat, as is now Hollybaugh up on the high side, and they've got Povolonis coming looking to make it 3 wide.
This is kind of the point in the race where you want to know where you're going to be able to maybe potentially make a run later on in this race, right? You know, you never know if the race will come down to a 10-lap or 5-lap sprint to the finish, and kind of got to get an idea of just how much momentum can you build up in one lap or a couple set of corners to try to get an idea of where you can make your move come the end of the race.
You do indeed. Here's Seb Alexander. He's going to move his car to the high side. This is the first time that we've seen, Jacob, anybody really challenge A.J. Musselman for the lead, but Alexander cannot quite get it done. He'll fall back to second. That's going to open the door for Povolonis on the high side, and Hollybaugh on the bottom. Seb might go from challenging for the lead to being 3 wide for second in just a couple of corners. He'll make it out of that battle, though. Hollybaugh stays on the bottom. Povolonis to the top side. The front 2 now continue on in line. And Jacob, this racing has been outstanding so far, about what we would have thought.
Yeah, we kind of expect that the leader's going to have a pretty sizable advantage kind of holding that white line on the inside of the track. You know, we see that at a number of 1.5 miles here in the IndyCar. But I think the biggest thing is being able to see the cars in the pack make moves on each other, right? It may not be the most interesting thing at the very, very front of the field, but being able to see these guys maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th jockeying for position, try to make their moves up the field, that's where it gets interesting.
Yeah, and speaking of guys that are making moves through the field, here's another one. Frank Wynn in the Japan Candy Store machine. He's up quite a ways. He started 10th. He is now 7th, but he's been making moves in that draft. So Frank Wynn, one of those cars making moves. One of the guys that's been making moves backwards, Alan Boutreau. Boutreau started this race in the 2nd spot. He has fallen back to 8th, and you got to wonder, is he maybe saving a little bit of fuel? Is he content to kind of ride around here and learn? But Boutreau has been moving the other way. Seb Alexander's been moving forward. Boutreau going backward. He started 2nd, is currently 8th. He is the only fiercely forward entry in the field, by the way, tonight, Jacob Collins. So not any friends for Alan as he maneuvers around here. And friends in this draft can be a pretty handy thing to have.
Yeah, especially as you get further up the field, the more you can kind of coordinate with the cars around you, where you're going to kind of position your cars to try to stay in front of the cars behind you. You see a number of instances in which guys will kind of fan their cars all the way across the track, create the air wall, if you will, of trying to keep cars behind them. So the more that you can kind of work with the cars that are up nearby you and keep the ones trying to pass you to passing you, goes a long way.
You know, it most certainly does, and you know, guys working together, you know, Seb Alexander, Matt Hollybaugh, Chad Simpson, those are all members of an alliance. Go a little bit further back, our points leader, Rashad Craig, is part of that group, the Indy Alliance machine. He has been content to ride around at the very back. He and Ella Spice are, even as you look at it, Jacob, they've fallen back off the draft. They've fallen not off the draft, but they've fallen pretty far back from it. I think anticipating maybe an early incident here and not wanting to be involved.
Well, some of this too might also be that they want to try to leapfrog in the pit cycle too, right? They can maybe get the fuel save in, pull off the overcut, and end up ahead of a lot of these cars that they're following right now, just kind of depending on how the pit cycle falls out. You know, if they stay out and catch a caution, they'll cycle a bit further up the field and not have to worry about that track position being as big of a factor. So that there's always a risk being played there, but it's one that, you know, depending on how this race shakes out, might pay off in the end.
You know, that's very true. Pit window does open in about 5 to 6 laps. 45 to 50 is the normal here. Looking at Tyquila, he's another one with a very high oval I rating. He's the number 4 car in this race, running along with Anna Klimek. They're content to ride along in the back of this field. Looking at Will Weiser, Robin Glakis up in front of them. None of these cars are really, you know, they're not really making a charge. They're content to stay in the back here. Same with Chris Nenow. There's Chris. He's in the number 14. He's not really moved a whole lot, just riding around in 11th. The action doesn't really start. We've seen Hollybaugh now move toward the back. There he is, just getting passed by Frank Wynn. It seems as though you have 4 or 5 guys who are content to, or 4 or 5 guys who want to fight it out for the lead. And then you've got a lot of people just wanting to ride here, log some laps. There's Will Stearns. He's got the number 13 car stacked up on the hide side, and Grandpa, he's giving it a good ride to the outside AJ Musselman for 4th here.
Yeah, Alexander, the lap or two before this, kind of opened the floodgates past Musselman coming off of turn 4 and made the pass on him. So it's kind of opened the floodgate for the first couple cars to get ahead of Musselman. It'll be interesting to see if Musselman is able to fight back on the bottom here now to make it past any of these cars back towards the front.
He does get that MadWorks car to the bottom of Casey Povolonis, and so AJ Musselman will go back to the inside of Povolonis. He'll claim 2nd. Now he'll go back to the inside for the lead on Seb Alexander. Musselman, the MadWorks driver, he is a former teammate of Alexander, Rashad Craig, myself, and so AJ Musselman, well known to the Indy Alliance cars of Alexander and Rashad Craig. Do you think that plays into anything, how they race each other? Knowing how somebody drives?
It helps knowing who you got.
Yeah.
It helps knowing who you've got out there on the track, who you could trust, what they might try to do at various points throughout the race. You know, the more familiar are your competition, the easier it is to, you know, feel comfortable racing guys hard, especially on oval tracks where you're in such a close proximity consistently. It helps to know who you can trust to stay close with and trust to give you the space when you need it.
Most certainly does. I love this drone shot that we've got right here from Whiplash SimCams. If you're an iRacing driver, photographer, broadcaster, go on over to Whiplash SimCams. These camera shots are absolutely breathtaking at the Chicagoland Speedway right now. We're going to jump on board the roll bar for Casey Povolonis. He was the second to last car in this race, number 16 for the Votive Racing League. Casey Povolonis runs at 3rd, and he's giving it a pretty good ride, Jacob.
Yeah, you got to make the most of these opportunities when they present themselves to kind of run with the big dogs, if you will, and get an idea of where you stack up. It doesn't necessarily matter where you do it or just how much you make of it, but being able to make that statement of I'm here to compete, that always goes a long way.
Yes, it does, and it also goes a long way doing it the right way. You don't want to take anybody out. You don't want to make a misstep and cause a mess. And Povolonis, he's doing a fine job up in that 3rd spot. Musselman has gone back to the lead. That MadWorks car is awfully stout, Jacob.
Yeah, you kind of saw him work his way back on the bottom by Alexander and the train that had kind of gotten by him a couple laps prior to it. So it'll be interesting to see if he's maybe just trying to get an idea of how easy it is to claw his way back through the field should he get shuffled back in a pit cycle, or some other happenstance event may occur where he gets shuffled back, just trying to get an idea of how to make his car work in traffic.
Yes, he does. There's the front 3. It's Musselman, Alexander, Povolonis. Alan Boutreau had fallen back quite a ways. He made it all the way back to the 10th spot earlier, Boutreau. Well, he's worked his way back up to 4th. And so I think right now we might be in that point of the run where tire wear is starting to figure, and you're going to start seeing the Fiercely Fords, the Indy Alliance cars, the satellite racings, those bigger teams start coming to the front. Maybe the guys that are on the fixed setup, they might be able to hang for the first 15, 20, 30 laps, but eventually that's going to tell in the tire wear. You see Will Stearns up there. That's a car that I'm looking at. He made it all the way up to 3rd. He's back now to 6th, 7th spot.
Some of that, too, might just be guys switching their mindsets up too, right? They may have wanted to get out front to get an idea of maybe where they could put their car closer to the front of the field, and now that they've been, up there, they kind of have an idea of what they need to get come the end of the race, so they'll shuffle back a little bit. There's a lot of factors in play about how people are going to try to strategize their positioning throughout the course of a race like this, and it's interesting to see how the cars kind of play out over the course of longer green flag runs, especially.
It is. There's Matt Hollybaugh. He is one of the early front runners. He's fallen to the back. Just got passed by Lith Fox. Now the car of Logan Edwards going past Hollybaugh. He'd been up. Matt Hollybaugh had been up amongst the front 3 or 4 early on. He's now runs along in 9th. The battle for the lead is still AJ Musselman. It's Seb Alexander in 2nd. Casey Povolonis has the best view of the proceedings here. He runs along in 3rd, and there's the view for Povolonis. And speaking of views, we do want to thank everybody in the audience tonight. Another good crowd on hand for the Indy Open Series. If you haven't done so, make sure you ring the bell, subscribe to the P1 Broadcasting Network so you can be notified of all of our future iRacing broadcasts. Immediately after this, Jacob, you're going to trade the microphone for a steering wheel and head to Kansas for the Sim Gaming Expo ISRA Open Wheel Series. That's going to be at 9:35, and tomorrow night we'll have the IndyCar Oval Tuesday Top Split presented by Techtopia. That's going to go at 8:15. On Wednesday, we're going to have the Horizon IndyCar Series. That's going to be Ryan Eric King and I at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thursday night, the AMA Blackmagic Studios Grand National Series live from Indianapolis. Pre-race at 8:20, 8:35 start. The AMA Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series, well, they'll be live from Indianapolis Raceway Park, and that's a ton of fun, Collins, running trucks at IRP, isn't it?
Yeah, IRP's a track that I've gotten the honor to try out in the Road to Indy last season. It's definitely a tricky one, lots of lanes to navigate, especially in the stockers, I'd imagine, so that should be a good one.
It most certainly is, and that brings us back to next week. We'll be right here, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard for the Indy Open Series Top Split from Portland. You're riding on board with Casey Povolonis. He is a 3rd on the road, looking at the battle for the lead. And here's what it looks like outside. It looks a lot less calm on TV than it does in the cockpit, doesn't it, Jacob? Or a lot more calm.
Well, when you got more cars on the screen.
More calm on TV than it does in the car. In the car, it can feel chaotic. On TV, it looks very almost sedate at times. That's Lith Fox under Will Stearns, who's following Chad Simpson, by the way. And we're in that area where if you wanted to make this in 3 equal runs, you could pit within the next 3 or 4 laps. That's one of the viable strategies here for these drivers, just to kind of see what they want to do, depending on how their cars are set up, Jacob.
I imagine some of that also has to weigh on who they think they can work with when they pit, right? I imagine none of these guys are going to want to pit by themselves, so that, especially guys that are maybe in a group with alliances or teammates of theirs, they're going to want to try to pit together, work a swap draft, try to maintain as much position on the track as they can. Yeah, they definitely do. Speaking of cars that are going to want to start working together, how about Rashad Craig? He's following Robin Glakis right there. Rashad is 16th. He and Glakis are about 0.8 of a second. And there's Rob, and here's the view from the roll bar of Rob and Glakis. They're 7/8 of a second behind Anna Klimek. It's time to start getting up there, boys, because they're in danger of losing that draft. Yeah, this is kind of the point in the run. I'd imagine that they've got to just close that gap up, get ready for the pit cycle, come in, come out, and then start to maybe redress where they were trying to make their strategy call. Maybe they start wanting to dice their way through the field at the next set of green flag run.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about positioning for the end of this race. We've been caution-free, knock on wood, for the balance of the first run. Again, we're anticipating pit stops starting anytime up through about lap 55. We're watching Seb Alexander and AJ Musselman continue to dice for the lead. They've had a loyal rear guard there in Casey Povolonis in the 16. Alan Boutreau has worked his way back up to 4th. And then these cars have got kind of a gap back to Chad Simpson in 5th. They're about 0.6 of a second or more back now to Lith Fox, as Lith is battling with Simpson for that position.
Yeah, these front couple cars haven't been super side-by-side fighting for position.
Speaking of super side-by-side, Stern, Simpson, Fox, 3 wide here. They pulled it off, but you're exactly right, Jacob. I mean, they're starting to lose that front pack. Now, Will Stearns is going to clear Simpson, as is Lith Fox. Chad Simpson's going to drop back to 7th. Now Logan Edwards is going to go past. So Chad Simpson is going backward here toward the end of the run. He's got Chad Nenow underneath him. Chad Simpson went from 5th to 9th in about 3 laps.
And some of this too might just be knowing where he's at in the fuel run too, right? If he's pitting in another 3 or 4 laps, he's not going to want to try to fight these guys super hard, because obviously they're not full on pulling away from him just yet. So it's probably just one of those things that he's trying to keep as much goodwill as he can come to the end of the race when the elbows need to come out.
It could be riding through the left eyeball of the 13, Will Stearns. He got past Chad Simpson and has immediately started to reel in that front group. It was 0.7 of a second. Now it's 0.5 second. Will Stearns has turned up the wick, and he is trying to come forward, get on the back of Alan Boutreau as we head toward pit stops here at Chicagoland. 45 of 125 complete. Do also note, speaking of wicks, Rashad Craig has turned his up. He's gone from last all the way up to not all the way, but up to the 14th spot. He's passed Anna Klimek, and he's looking at the back of Will Weiser. Rashad Craig, he's looking to start coming forward in the Indy Alliance machine as pit stops loom. And you do want to get as far forward as you can, Jacob. You don't want to pit from the back. If you pit from the back, the more time you lose.
Yeah, pitting from the front gives you the most opportunity to catch a car in the draft pretty much regardless of when you come in. So the further up the field you can get, that's usually a good indication of where you're going to kind of shuffle out come the end of the pit cycle.
Speaking of pit stops, here comes Musselman. Here comes Seb Alexander. Here comes Will Stearns. Wholesale pit stops from the front of this field. I believe we've also got Logan Edwards onto the pit lane as well. So Alexander, Stearns, Edwards, and Musselman all on the pit lane. Robin Glakis has the meatball, and he has punched out of the number 11. We'll have to get a check on that. All 4 of those machines now on the pit lane. We'll go back to the lead. It's been assumed by Alan Boutreau. Lith Fox is 2nd. Chris Nenow has moved into 3rd. And Ty Keela, he is now 4th, but he is 0.9 of a second back, Jacob, of this group, closing rapidly.
Yeah, you've got to wonder how much further that these cars that have stayed out are going to try to extend this window. You know, a lot of them might have been running further back of the field, maybe been able to save a little bit more gas, but there's really only so much gas you can save around here. You know, we kind of thought that the upper end of the window would be about 55 laps. So it's possible that they'll come in a couple laps from now, but you got to think that with as big of gaps as they're up here towards the stragglers on the pit strategy right now, that they're going to want to come in sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and you know, the drivers that have saved the fuel and tried to go long here, Anna Klimek and Rashad Craig among them, they have now caught Chad Simpson. And so those two are coming forward. That's Craig and Klimek. They've got Chad Simpson between them now. But it's almost like you watch it, it's almost like a conveyor belt of drivers when the guys running long and the guys running short. People slowing down on pit lane, and you'll see the drivers that have been in the back, they'll turn it up, and it's just like a conveyor belt. They catch the next guy, move forward, and that's time that they wouldn't have made up otherwise. When it all shakes out, they'll be further ahead. Seb Alexander has gotten to the lead of the cars that pitted 3 laps ago. So Alexander now 10th. He is a lap down. He's the first car on one lap down. Ella Spice has pitted. But those cars are run along right in turn 3. Alan Boutreau is your leader. He's been out 53 laps. Boutreau works it off of turn number 2. And Jacob, there's a huge difference in time here. Seb Alexander, Chris Nenow, Will Stearns, they're a couple of tenths of a second a lap quicker than Keela and Boutreau. Boutreau is going to hit pit lane.
Yeah, it's going to be that little bit of time lost, too, that kind of shuffles those cars that have stayed out longer towards the back of the field, potentially. But it also entirely depends on how much time they might have made up by staying out longer, maybe get a shorter pit stop, fill up the tank, just that little bit less. Even if they do still have to fill it full, just being out longer in general might give them an opportunity to cycle a bit closer to the front.
There you go. Tyquila did stay out long enough to lead a lap. He is now going to hit the pit lane. Rashad Craig is also in the pits, as is Alan Bruteau. That will hand the lead over to Frank Wynn. Wynn has made this 55 laps. So Wynn, Fox, Klimek, Weiser, Simpson, and Simpson, they've all gone 55 laps. Let's see if they'll go another. They will not. Frank Wynn is going to hit the pit lane with Lith Fox in tow, as is Chad Simpson. That's going to leave Anna Klimek and Will Weiser out for one more lap. And there's Anna the Deer, fourth in points. Great competitor in the IndyCar Series. Jacob, you've had your duels with Anna. And there she is, but she is got to be just about out of petrol.
Well, she's going around one more time, so she must have the thing on full conserve mode for the bulk of this run to make it this deep into the fuel run.
She has, and she's not really given up all that much time. About a tenth a lap to Seb Alexander. Alexander has now moved into fourth, but we're watching to see when Anna Klimek is going to bring this Taylor Mills Racing machine to the pit lane, and there she does. Anna the Deer is going to hit pit road. 57 coming to get 58. Will Weiser is on pit road as well, and that means that Seb Alexander has assumed the lead. He's got it from Chris Nenow, Will Stearns, Logan Edwards, and Alan Bruteau as they work toward turn one, and they are in a big pack, Jacob. There it is.
Yeah, they've conglomerated back together, even with the differences in pit strategy that we kind of saw throughout this upper group here. So all's well that ends well, but we'll have to see with the guys that kind of took longer to come in, take their stops, if they're able to cycle back towards the rest of this group, or if there's maybe going to be a bit of a gap towards the back half of this field.
Well, we're going to see here pretty shortly. Anna the Deer just came out onto the racing surface. Rashad Craig, he's part of a group that may not be in this draft, or may have to work pretty hard to catch back up. Pretty much the top 10 make that top 11. Will Weiser is the last car that may have access to the draft. He's got Matt Hollybaugh, and we'll get to Hollybaugh here. He's got Hollybaugh, Anna Klimek. There's Rashad Craig. There's Chad Simpson. They need to get to hustling because they're about a second behind Will Weiser, and Weiser is about 8/10 behind Lith Fox.
Yeah, the time to act is now, because it's entirely possible that if they wait any longer than now, they're not going to have the opportunity to get back to the rest of the field.
Yes, they will. Working 60 of 125. Seb Alexander is the leader. The front of this field is pretty calm, though just as I say that, Alan Bruteau has gone to the outside of Chris Nenow, and they're going to go 2x2. That's Logan Edwards on the bottom side. He'll go side by side with Casey Povolonis. And then the row 3 is going to be made up of Will Stearns and Frank Wynn. They've got the number 4 of Tyquila, the number 15 of Lith Fox, and then pole sitter and early leader AJ Musselman is back in 10th. And there's AJ. I got to wonder if maybe he's saving some fuel in that MadWorks machine, trying to do what the others did on the first run, make his final pit stop just as short as absolutely possible.
And that could very much work out in his favor, right? He goes long here, hits really late, takes a light tank, running essentially on minimum fuel. He's able to push as absolutely hard as he can on a light tank with likely fresh tires at that point. That may end up being the ultimate winning strategy come the last dozen or so laps.
I was just thinking that, especially with Anna Klimek, and we'll go back. Klimek made 57 laps on her first run, running around in minimum fuel. If she's able to do anything like that again as we come and take halfway, and Jacob, we're going to start counting backwards now with the laps, but with Klimek, 57 laps on that first run, doing another 57, that's 114. By my reckoning, that's 4 gallons. That's no tires. That's a splash of gas, head back out try to win the race.
Yeah, the old splash and dash may come in clutch come the last dozen or so laps, especially if you've got fresh tires underneath you and don't have to have a single care in the world but trying to get that checkered flag.
Absolutely. And look, Jacob, I mean, you know, Anna, out of the Indy Pro Series, not a lot of oval races under her belt. This would be a huge opportunity for Anna Klimek to maybe use some strategy and steal a win. There she is, right behind Chad Simpson now. Rashad Craig has begun to pull himself forward. He's now 12th, just at the front of this shot. The lead, well, it's the same mess that we left. Seb Alexander has laid claim to the bottom side of the racetrack. He's going to force Alan Boutreau to drive around the top of him. Casey Pobolonis, I think, has been the most stable car anywhere in this field. He has been consistently third over the last 40 laps or so. He hasn't made it to the lead. Pobolonis hasn't made it back to fourth. He has just been, well, third, right there in the top line. And it's very difficult, Jacob, and you know this, once you get to the lead, it is very difficult to pass either that first or second car here at Chicagoland.
Yeah, the cars that kind of take the clean air at the front of the field kind of can get away with just about anywhere they want to go, and then the cars behind them just have to hope and pray that they can generate some sort of run through the draft and putting their car in a spot coming on the entry of subsequent corners to maybe get those cars that are in the clean air out of position just that little bit to try to generate some sort of move on them.
Yes, they do. Want to continue to talk about moves. That this group here in the back, Rashad Craig and others, have caught the lead draft. Craig wasting no time. He gets to the bottom of Chad Simpson. Move Rashad Craig up to 11th. Next up on the hit parade is going to be the number 3 of AJ Musselman. Musselman, the pole sitter and early leader, he rides along in 10th. Lith Fox is 9th, right behind Frank Wynn. Chris Nenow had briefly made it to 2nd. Nenow shuffled back to 7th. And then you've got Tykila in 6th. That is a veteran of the wars on these ovals. You'll see him regularly on Tuesday nights in the Indy Oval top fixed setup, top split races. But there's Ty. He runs along in 6th. And then you've got the front 5, Alexander Boutreau, Pobolonis, Edwards, and Will Stearns. As we continue to make laps here at Chicago, 56 laps to go. Seb Alexander, by the way, would be almost halfway through his fuel run already. And Jacob, we still have not seen that caution that would come out and kind of nullify all the fuel savings and fuel strategies that have happened so far.
Well, all it takes is one poorly timed one about midway through the pit cycle that could kind of completely flip the whole race on its head, especially in the event that a number of good cars end up a lap down, have to take the wave around to get back up into the mix of things. So I think we'd like to see it just go green the whole way at this point so that the race can kind of play out in its natural form. But, you know, that's the nature of the beast when you come to these races, is they could change so much so fast.
Do want to thank Shane Coker for piping into the chat. Shane, of course, keenly interested in the Votive Racing League entry of Casey Pobolonis that runs along in 3rd. He was just saying that Anna Klimek is a natural. Uniquely, one of the things that I discovered is that Anna Klimek and Rashad Craig both have very few incident points on the series. I believe both of them for the entire season only have 7X, which is outstanding when you consider, Jacob, some of the tracks that we've gone to and some of the tight quarters racing that we've seen. And so kudos to Anna Klimek, kudos to Rashad Craig, and there's Anna as she works down toward the bottom side of Frank Wynn. They're trying to work past Tykila. We've got trouble. Trouble at the front of the field. That's Lith Fox and Will Stearns. Lith Fox got upside down on the backstretch. Caution is out here at Chicago. And that's Lith Fox, Will Stearns. They're running along through turns number 1 and 2, and there's either going to be we're going to get the pylon out of the way so that we can see what happens here. But this is good. Excuse me. This is going to be fairly interesting to see what happens. Will Stearns running the middle groove of the track. Lith the Fox up at the top. And it's almost like those two cars got sucked together, Jacob.
Yeah, we kind of talked at the top of the show how that backstretch wall kind of curves back in and flattens out because of the D-shaped nature of this track. And that's kind of just what happens there is you get two cars really close to that outside wall, and the outside wall kind of comes back down. So the car on the outside has to go straight at some point, and they'll just come together.
Yeah, they most certainly will. We're going to jump on board. We're going to jump on board with Ty Keela just to watch his view. This is what Ty is going to see. We'll get in the left eyeball of Ty Keela riding along here at Chicago. He's got the front. What, 7 cars? He's running along in 8th, and there you see Will Stearns start to slide high. Catches the right frontal Lith Fox. Over the top goes Fox into the wall. Stearns spins around and, well, Ty with a great job of avoidance. We do have cars, by the way, that are takers on the pit lane. And by cars, I mean everybody has stopped here.
I'd imagine this puts us just inside the window to maybe make it to the end on a bit of a fuel save. Especially for people like maybe an Anna Klemek who were able to make 57, 56 laps on that opening run. This is probably doable from here.
You know, I was thinking about that too. As we watch the cars form up behind the pace car, Alan Boutreau there playing the games. But kind of thinking about it, Jacob. Boutreau beats Alexander off of the pit lane. We know track position for the car that has the lead, of course, is so key here at Chicago. I don't think there's going to be any fuel saving. We're going to go back to green with 47 laps to go. Only the leader would be in trouble, if I'm thinking correctly, in a full blown dash to the end. And they may not be, depending on what kind of downforce settings they're running. For example, in the fixed car, we're used to a lot of downforce. Alan Boutreau may have that Fiercely Forward machine trimmed out so that less downforce, less drag, burn less fuel, right?
Yeah, and I guess I didn't realize quite how far to the shorter end of the fuel window we were at this point. I thought maybe there was still going to be a little bit of fuel saving going on, but I think when this race gets going again, we'll probably be with 45, 46 to go. So that makes it a much easier number to hit. And yeah, I'd imagine that most of these guys are going to try to rip it and ship it as best they can. But that tire wear may still play a factor. So we may see guys try to back it down just that little bit to try to eke the tire life.
I have an idea that we're about to see something pretty unique. Barney's got the green flag in hand. We're about ready to head back to the green flag action here at Chicago. 47 laps to go here in the Indy Open Top Split from Chicagoland as we work off toward turns number 1 and 2. Field safely through. I think we're about ready to see something you don't see very often, and that's going to be the guys from second on back essentially refusing to pass the leader. Just as I say that, though, Seb Alexander is immediately going to make a liar out of me. He's going to work to the top side of the Fiercely Forward machine. That's Alan Boutreau. Alexander, he's going to go for it. Is he going to make the move stick? He is almost clear. But the Fiercely Forward machine of Alan Boutreau, too much steam on the bottom, gets back past. Alexander almost had that move cleared. AJ Musselman goes to the top of the board in terms of lap time, 221.363. And remember, that's about a mile an hour faster than he qualified to sit on the pole, Jacob.
Well, the draft will help. Being behind about 3 or 4 cars might help. Having a bit of a gap so he can pull up on them, that'll help as well. It'll be interesting to see if that time kind of continues to drop as the fuel decreases, or if we see tire wear kind of come in to rear its ugly head and maybe cancel that any gain from a lighter tank out.
There you go. This is the battle for the lead. Brutto on the bottom. Alexander roughly lane 2. Povolonis is occupying the fence as he has done the entire evening. Logan Edwards has decided it's time for him to make his voice heard. He's moved up to the front, chopped to the bottom of Povolonis. Now he's looking underneath Edwards. Logan Edwards coming to the front, or looking underneath of Alexander. Edwards coming to the front.
And now's the time to start to get a move towards the front and get a feel for where you're going to be best positioned to try to stay in front of as many cars as possible come the end of this race.
I want to point something out. We've talked a lot about Seb Alexander in the black and bronze Indy Alliance machine. I want you to look 2 cars behind him, Jacob, and look at what's coming. It's black.
Rashad Craig, middle of 3.
Yeah, it's going to be Rashad Craig in the lime green and black machine. He splits Logan Edwards and Casey Povolonis. Rashad Craig's now going to climb to the high side. He's going to try to bid for the lead on the top of Seb Alexander and Alan Berteau as we head through turns number 1 and 2. Didn't quite make it, but he is now even. That is how close Seb Alexander is, by the way, to getting clear. It is not much, is it, Jacob?
No, it's just that little bit burst of momentum off the corners, all it takes to get in front. You know, we see the lead go back and forth by thousandths of a second coming to the line, so it's going to be just that little bit of momentum that either car can get at the front of this field, or I guess any car at the front of this field can get, that's going to get them the win come the checkered.
Yeah, and now the squeeze game starts. Seb Alexander had been giving Alan Berteau almost a full lane of room. That's down to about a third of a lane now, folks. You do one of the few ways as Rashad Craig almost runs in the back of teammate Alexander, and he's got a rear view mirror full of Casey Povolonis. Let's do this. Let's jump on board with Frank Wynn. And the reason that I want to see this is Frank Wynn has a ringside seat to a fearsome fight for the front here at Chicago.
And he himself gets put middle of 3 with Chad Simpson on the outside and Ninow on the inside.
Yeah, and you have to be very comfortable doing this. Ty Keela, he's very comfortable. Chad Simpson, very comfortable. Frank Wynn, I don't know that he has a whole lot of starts in races like this, but it can be very unnerving to be in the middle 3 wide like that. We'll go back to the front. Rashad Craig and Seb Alexander continue to dice with Alan Berteau. They've got Logan Edwards all over the back of Berteau, and they've got Povolonis all over the back of Rashad Craig, and they could make this thing 4 wide at just about any moment. Although, Jacob, 4 wide here at Chicago, it doesn't work, does it?
No, not particularly. It's probably similar to Daytona in terms of the track width. There's maybe a 4th lane there if you really, really want to make one, but you're kind of asking for trouble, especially on corner exit.
You are, and well, especially given the netcode possibilities in this car. You've always got to take that into account when you race it, right? We're going much faster than the stock car, the stock cars that the sim was made for, and these cars can tend to be a little netcodey, and if you're going to throw it 4 wide, you need to not only take into consideration the people around you, but you got to make sure iRacing isn't going to think you hit something when you didn't. Gosh, Seb, he's almost there. He's almost there, Jacob. Berteau will lead at that lap, but these margins are very close. Berteau led that last lap, but it was only 18 thousandths of a second. And Alexander is continuing to move closer and closer to the number 9 P1 Docks fiercely Ford machine to his left. Rashad Craig seems to be firmly ensconced in 3rd. He's got Edwards to the bottom, but Craig will get the draft from Alexander off the corner and catapult himself forward. Povolonis is the surprise of this race, Jacob. Casey Povolonis has not moved out of that top 5 since we started.
Yeah, there's something to be said for just kind of holding your position, standing your ground. He's kind of stayed relatively up towards the high side of the racetrack the bulk of this race. So, he's found a spot where he's comfortable, where maybe less cars are trying to make moves on him, and he's holding strong.
He is. I do want to point out something that Rashad Craig is doing, because he's running that high side just the same way as Casey Povolonis was. But watch Craig here as we jump on board. He is not going all the way down into the wake of the two cars in front of him. Logan Edwards, the car next to him, is absolutely running right in the tire tracks of Alan Berteau and Seb Alexander, and that's got to be, for what it's worth, hurting his tire life. Rashad Craig up at the very top still has a sniff of clean air, and that's got to be helping his longevity, and that's all going to matter here in about 30 laps time, Jacob.
Yeah, one thing we've kind of noticed since the car refresh is you're able to get away with a bit more running directly behind cars in front of you, especially at bigger tracks like this one, or say in Indianapolis or the like, where, because of some of the extra downforce options we have on these cars now, you're able to kind of hold the car in the dirty air just that little bit longer. Although once that dirty air kind of takes over, it takes your car over pretty much completely, and will bite you just as quickly as it kind of gave you the benefit of the doubt.
It can, and this car can be kind of edgy anyway. It's I tell people all the time, this is one of those, if there's a race car in the service that is fine until it's not fine, that is the IndyCar, and you're never really quite sure sometimes where not fine is, especially in a high-speed oval. These cars will tend to become a little bit free on corner exit here, especially off of turn number 2. Turn number 4, you get a little bit more of a radius to exit. It's not as bad, but it can get really, really free off of turn number 4 or turn number 2. And the issue with that is, Jacob, you don't really know when that's going to hit sometimes, do you?
No, you certainly don't. It's very much one of those things that you kind of get accustomed to it the more you drive the car, but there's also still instances in which you'll end up in a spot where the air is just a little bit different than anything you've tried before, and you get a little bit high up in the groove and can't really save it from that point. And that's just the situations in which you'll find yourself in this IndyCar.
Very much so. 27 laps to go. Do want to thank Whiplash SimCams for the camera shots this evening. Do want to thank also my broadcast partner in crime here, Jacob Collins. It's Murph. It's Collins, and it is the Indy Open Top Split this week from Chicagoland. I do want to remind everybody, make sure you hit the like button on the video, ring the bell to subscribe to the P1 Broadcasting Network, and be advised of all future iRacing broadcasts. And we've got one pretty much every day this week. Tonight, following this, the Sim Gaming Expo ISRA Open Wheel Series is going to happen. That's what, from Kansas, Jacob?
Yes, sir.
So you and Clindy and the gang, you'll be at Kansas here in another hour, or not another hour, another half hour or so for the race start of that event. We have a car coming off a pit lane. That is Lith Fox, 17 laps down. These cars can make it with the fuel on board. Of course, tomorrow night we're going to have the Indy oval fixed oval top split presented by Techtopia Systems. That's going to be at 8:15. The Horizon INDYCAR Series will go Wednesday at 8. The Blackmagic Studios AMA Grand National Series, that's at 8:20 pre-race, 8:35 start on Thursday. And finally, the Archway Industrial Coatings AMA Truck Series, that'll happen from Indianapolis Raceway Park, 8:20 on Friday, 8:35 race start, 8:20 on the pre-race. And Jacob, that means that we get Saturday off. How about that?
An off day is an off day.
An off day is an off day, and that brings it nicely. Back here. I do not believe, and if I'm checking my calendar here, there is no votive race Sunday, and so we have Sunday off as an off weekend, Jacob. So we watch the battle for the lead.
Sounds like it'll be a good weekend for a barbecue.
It does. I bet, I fired up the barbecue tonight and had some pork chops before this race. But I could stand to do that Saturday night. That sounds like a good time. watching Alan Bruteau as he continues to lead it. It's pretty much been status quo ante up at the front. Alexander has not been able to continue to hold Bruteau on the bottom. I almost think he's falling back kind of purposefully there, Jacob, trying to see what kind of run it's going to take to unseat Bruteau from that top spot.
I hate to be cheesy, but I think it's going to take the run of a lifetime to get Bruteau away, or well, around Bruteau on the high side anyway. It's possible that Seb can get enough of a run coming down the backstretch and maybe kind of pinch him further down, but strictly going through the corner, it looks like Bruteau's kind of got his number at this point.
You know, one of the things we haven't seen Alexander or really anybody do on Bruteau, now he did it on AJ Musselman, but he hasn't tried it on Bruteau yet, was bait Bruteau to come up off the bottom off a turn 2 and slide down to the inside himself. He has not yet done that, although he has not yet done that. Bruteau is not nearly the experienced oval racer that Musselman is, and so keep an eye on that. And Casey Povolonis, my goodness, Povolonis, one of the last cars in this field, continues to lay claim to that third spot, and he's gotten back past Rashad Craig. He's gotten back past Logan Edwards. Craig and Edwards have fallen off the pace a little bit, presumably to cool the tires. But give Povolonis his due. He has not wavered from the fence or the third position for most of this evening.
One thing I think we need to also highlight is AJ Musselman had been kind of hanging around the back of this entire pack for a good portion of this last run here and is slowly starting to work his way through the field. So it's entirely possible that he's hung onto his tires really well and is able to carve his way through towards the front of this field before the end of this thing.
Yeah, and there you see it. You can hear the giant lifts from Musselman going through the corners. He is not running that car very hard at all. Now, the tires for Alexander, they're going to be, they're going to be almost as good as the ones on Bruteau. Everybody else has been running along in traffic in the wake. The right fronts, the right rears are starting to get hot on these cars. We're 33 laps into a stint. This is where tires are going to show up, and let's see if AJ Musselman can make his way back toward the front. Jacob currently runs in 11th, but it's getting on time to be getting toward the front. There is Casey Povolonis running along with the leaders. Frank Wynn has made his way up to fourth. He's going to have a go kind of from that same spot that Logan Edwards made a challenge. Edwards, by the way, has fallen back to 9th. He's in the clutches of Chad Simpson and AJ Musselman at the moment. But Edwards has gone from challenging from the lead all the way to the back, and maybe he's used up the Firestones as well. Still looking for Seb Alexander to try to make that charge to get past Alan Bruteau, and that's going to be a tough one, Jacob.
Yeah, it looks like Rashad Craig might have had a moment coming through 3 and 4 that last time by. Got really, really tight kind of in the middle of 3 cars and fell backwards, so we'll have to see if he's able to recover any of that over the rest of this race.
We'll see. Of course, the drivers can use the weight jackers. They can use the anti-roll bars to steady these machines as they come. But there's Rashad Craig. He has fallen back to 11th. Frank Wynn is now making a challenge to Casey Povolonis. Wynn has gotten past Povolonis, and that's the first time that we've really seen anybody make that stick move Wynn up to 3rd as Seb Alexander makes one more charge to the outside of Alan Bruteau. Cannot quite make it clear, but it's getting closer up there. That distance between those two cars is getting lesser and lesser each time they traverse the Chicagoland circuit. Down the backstretch, 11 laps to go, Jacob.
Yeah, I don't think the gap between the cars lap over lap has been more than maybe half a tenth the entire run here. So it's been basically a game of inches every single lap as Frank Wynn looks to try to make it 3 wide going into turn 1.
He can. Now that's going to deny Alexander the angle that he wants. Seb had been flaring all the way to the outside wall and then coming right down next to the P1 docks, fiercely forward entry of Alan Bruteau. But with wind there, he can't do that. That's going to hurt Alexander's tires as well. But I meant more in terms of the distance, physical distance between Alexander and Brutto. Alexander is no longer letting Alan Brutto come off the corner. He is holding him right to that bottom line.
Yeah, essentially. Ooh, contact.
Woo! Yeah, they did make contact. Alexander goes all the way up to the wall. He saves the automobile, but Seb Alexander has a moment, and here it is going down the backstretch. They touched going through turn 3. I don't know that Alexander hit the wall, but if he didn't hit it, he got awfully close to it, Jacob.
It looks like he might have been able to hit it square, though, so hopefully there's not too much, if any, damage on that car, and he's able to maybe claw back in and get a couple spots before the end of this thing.
He did smack the fence. It was square. Seb Alexander is back into the fight. He is currently scored in 8th spot, right in front of the satellite racing entry of, whoa, Alexander hard in the wall, Simpson over the top. Caution is on the racetrack. Hard impact for Seb Alexander, hard impact for Chad Simpson. And that's going to be a tough end of the day for the man who had challenged for the lead for much of this going. And I'd be willing to bet that there was something bent on that number 2 machine, and it just it finally showed itself here, Jacob.
Yeah, it looks like the car just might have not turned as much as Seb was expecting it to off of turn 2. He clocks the wall, comes down. Simpson's got nowhere to go.
Yeah, here you're going to see it. Alexander, of course, he has not been in traffic for most of the day. And I'm sure a little bit of red mist, too, behind the helmet of the number 2 car. And there he goes, right in the outside wall. And that's such an angle, bad angle there, because you hit the wall there, and you've got the wheel loaded left. Smack the fence. It's just going to turn you loose. And poor Chad Simpson, absolutely nowhere to go. Caution is on the racing surface with Jacob 6 laps to go. And now what do? We're going to see some drivers come to the pit lane, and we're going to see some drivers not.
Well, I imagine if you don't have track position, you come in, you take your tires, come back out and try to make the most of it. And if you don't have, or you do have the track position, you're going to try to stay out and block the field as best you can.
There you go. Cars on the pit lane. Povolonis, Musselman, Weiser, Craig. Chad Simpson has the meatball. He's on the pit lane. Seb Alexander has ejected from the number 2. Chris Nenow has been on pit lane for 3 minutes. He also has a meatball. Lith Fox is circulating on the speedway 17 laps down, 12 laps down to Chris Nenow. So Lith Fox cannot improve any positions, any further positions, and Chris Nenow has now ejected from the server as well. So let's set the stage here for you. Brutto is your leader. Frank Wynn is second. Ty Keela third. Anna Klimek, Anna the Deer, is fourth. Logan Edwards, fifth. Ella Spice is sixth. Matt Hollybot is seventh. The front 7 did not stop. Povolonis, Musselman, Weiser, Craig did stop. Chad Simpson, Seb Alexander, Chris Nenow, Lith Fox, Will Stearns, and Uncle Robin Glakis are all out of this event. So how do you see this setting up, Jacob?
Well, you're going to have these guys towards the back on fresh tires trying to push as hard as they can through the field because they have essentially free reign over just how hard they can push, because it's going to come down to maybe, what, a lap, 2 laps?
We are going to have
the guys at the front are going to have to just try to get off the line as fast as they can.
Yeah, we're going to have a 3-lap shootout here on the P1 Broadcasting Network with Alan Bruteau leading Frank Wynn and Ty Keela in the Indy Open Top Split live from Chicagoland. Cinch the belts up tight, Jacob. Hit the like button on the video. Ring the bell to subscribe to P1. We're going to get up in the flag stand. There's Barney with the green flag. Away we go, about 4.5 miles to decide it here at Chicagoland. Bruteau gets the early break. They are 3 wide back there. Rashad Craig underneath Matt Hollybaugh. Hollybaugh is going to try to fight back on the inside, but no. Frank Wynn is to Alan Bruteau. Here we go. It's the battle for the lead, and there is a ton of oval experience behind these two. In the number 4 of Ty Keela in third. Anna the Deer is fourth, but she is about 0.4 of a second back. 2 laps to go, Jacob.
We're going to take it 3 wide down the back.
We are going to do that. Frank Wynn trying anything he can to get close to the machine of Alan Bruteau. Ty Keela trying to fight back on the outside. He's trying to look for his move to slingshot it. Rashad Craig has now brought his new tires up to 4th. He's going to go the inside of Tequila. Move Rashad Craig to 2nd. Move Rashad Craig to the inside of Alan Bruteau. He's going to have to lift. Rashad Craig is now on the inside. They're 3 wide. They're going to turn for home now. Bruteau is clear. Rashad Craig is to the inside of Frank Wynn. Bruteau gets to the apron. He is going to win the race. Rashad Craig is going to come 2nd. And Frank Wynn will be 3rd. Ty Keela 4th. Credit AJ Musselman with a wild drive to 5th. My goodness sakes, Jacob.
Yeah, we kind of called it. It was going to be the guys at the front trying to get as far out ahead as they could because those fresh tires were going to come, and they were going to come quick.
Whew. They most certainly did. There you see the finish. There you see the final lap, actually. And that's how it started. It didn't quite end that way. And what a recovery drive for the point leader, Rashad Craig. Your winner tonight, Alan Bruteau. He is going to come home as the winner. Rashad Craig is 2nd. Frank Wynn will be 3rd. Ty Keela and AJ Musselman 4th and 5th. Casey Povolonis, that might be the worst that Casey Povolonis ran all night, unfortunately for him, and he'll be 6th. Anna Clemick 7th. Will Weiser 8th. Logan Edwards is 9th. Ella Spice will come home in 10th. 11th is Matt Hollybaugh. 12th, Chad Simpson. Seb Alexander. Chris Nenow, Lith Fox, Will Stearns, and Robin Glakis all out of the race. Jacob, do we have drivers in the interview room?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. This right here is going to give you an idea, fans at home, of how close Alexander and Bruteau were racing. My goodness gracious. There are times there is not a sheet of paper between those two automobiles. And Alan Bruteau has joined in the waiting room. And so there's Alan, there's Rashad Craig. We'll give Frank Wynn just a couple of moments here. And there's Frank in the Japan Candy Store machine. Now, some of you who may be watching this broadcast and don't follow some of the leagues, that is not a surprise to see Frank Wynn bring it home in 3rd here tonight. Jacob.
Not the slightest.
It is not. And speaking of Frank Wynn, here he is, the man behind the Japan Candy Store, number 5. It's Frank Wynn with Murph and Collins in the P1 broadcasting booth. Frank, you got it up to 3rd. Tell us what you think you could have done to get around Allen there. You get around Allen there, or was it just a matter of him having the inside?
I think the inside line was just too strong around here. By the way, thank you for having me again. It's good to be back in the open setup strength of field races again. Pretty exciting race for me there. But yeah, I was hoping that last caution didn't come out because I think I could have, attempted a few more trickery, try to do a few more moves there without the pressure of P3 because we were sort of building a gap, like an 8/10 gap to P3 before the caution came out. But with the restart, now I had to think about defending from multiple people who were behind me. But yeah, it's just the inside line was too strong. I was hoping to do the over under out of the corners, try to, if he stood up just ever so slightly, force my way onto the inside there, or even onto the apron on the final lap. But that wasn't the case on the final lap. There was a car on the inside of me, and unfortunately, I lost out P2 there at the end. But I had a good race considering where I started. P10, I believe. It was an eventful race, at the end. We were just chilling for the first 2 stints there, but near the pointy end, I made some moves back up towards the front. Worked with the clean air, worked with the tools. Maybe the tire wear helped in my case as well, but it was fun working my way up there at the end.
It sure looked like fun. Jacob, do you have anything for third place Frank Wynn this evening?
Yeah, we saw a lot of guys kind of play different on the opening couple stints with fuel strategy. Do you feel like if you would have played anything differently, maybe the track position might have worked out in your favor better had you tried something different in those opening stints, or did it just kind of come down to whatever people had the last dozen laps when that late caution came out?
Well, my strategy was pit as late as I could, just so that for the final stint I'd have the freshest tires, assuming it stayed green. The first stint was to plan. I pitted, I believe, like one of the later cars to have pitted, and I was still within the pack when I exited the pit lane, so that worked out for me. But yeah, it was just a fuel mileage game. Try to keep it, in the window. But the first caution came out, and it pretty much put everyone on the same strategy on the same lap. So from there on, it was just managing the tires.
There you go. Well, Frank, thank you so much for joining us in the booth, as is the tradition here at P1. You make the podium, you get the mic. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs. The floor is yours, my friend.
Of course. Once again, I want to thank P1 Broadcasting for broadcasting this race. It's always fun to have a broadcast where all my fans and viewers can watch TV style. And speaking of my fans, viewers, I want to give them a shout out. My Twitch viewers, love y'all. Thank y'all so much for the support. I'm doing this all for you, so hopefully y'all had a good show. Again, also as well, I want to shout out JapanCandyStore.com. If you like Japanese foodstuffs, go to that website. They've got all you need. And of course, my team, Mirai United VRT, great group of friends to sim race with, especially in INDYCAR. Liff was also my teammate was also in this race. Unfortunately, his race ended prematurely. But it's always a fun time with the team there. And yeah.
There you go. Well, thank you so much, Frankie, for joining us in the booth. Don't be a stranger, my friend. Keep coming back. We love having you. And keep going fast and having fun. You hear?
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. That is Frank Wynn. He'll run third this evening. Always great to talk to Frank. Speaking of great to talk to, and a guy that we've been seeing more and more in the booth post race, Rashad Craig, you've had the points lead, brother. You made a wild charge on the sticker tires there at the end. Talk to us about coming back up through there to finish second. And did you have anything for Allen, or was it just not going to be a way to get around the car on the inside in the lead?
With the right run, I could have, but I didn't have it there. I was trying not to pass him before the final straight under the white. Made it kind of close, but we lived. But man, I'm surprised I'm here. Like that, if that caution didn't happen, I was done. kind of killed my tires on that last stint before the caution. And was dropping back, trying to bring the tires back. They weren't coming back, and then the caution happened. Unfortunately, it took out a couple teammates, but fresh tires was all it needed, and got a really, really good jump on the restart, and gave some entertainment on the way back for it, I guess.
There you go. Yeah, man. I mean, you were tremendous. You were tremendous in that final run. The tires made all the difference. Jacob, what say you to Mr. Rashad Craig this evening?
Yeah, we kind of saw the tire call work out there in the end. Do you feel like that it would have worked out differently had the caution come out a couple laps earlier, if there had been more of a run towards the end? Like, obviously, you might have been able to make up more track position in that time, but it also gave more opportunity for maybe a yellow to come out at the same time. So how do you balance that risk reward potentially if that run's extended a little bit?
I mean, I had to come in regardless because the tires are dead, and I was dropping to the back of the field. Basically, was there, but if it would have happened earlier, there was a chance that with enough laps, more people would have pitted. And it would have been less of a gamble with more laps. But with only the 3 final ones, you could make an argument to stay out. And I'm not sure how many more people gained positions because of it, but it really worked out for me. And Alan staying, well, obviously he's the leader, but it worked out for him and a few others. So it's really just the luck of the draw and having a really good jump and being really aggressive with the fresh tires.
Well, there you go, Rashad, and thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. You definitely made use of the fresh tires to full effect. You're bringing home just short of a dub with the P2. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs, my man. You extend the points lead, and the floor is yours.
I'd like to thank friends and family and the team for working on the set, and we kind of didn't know what we had here and still trying to work on something for maybe the next time we potentially come here. But thanks you guys for broadcasting again, and hope everybody has a great rest of their week. I know I'm going to.
Heck yeah, buddy. Well, get out of here. Go have some fun. Celebrate. You've earned it. P2, Rashad Craig this evening from Chicago. And that's going to leave us with the winner tonight, Alan Berteau. Alan, you've got Murph, you've got Collins in the P1 broadcasting booth. You grabbed the lead under the final pit stop from Seb Alexander. You held the bottom and pretty much fended off all comers. Kind of talk to us about what that's like, the stress of being the car on the bottom and knowing you have to be inch perfect or the guys will get around you.
Hello first. So that was kind of horrible to not know if he was playing with me or just trying to overtake me. And I had to save some fuel while leading the race because we had barely enough. But that was interesting, but the last question ruined everything, kind of. But yeah, that was very stressful.
I can believe it. Jacob, what do you have for Mr. Berteau here? He joins the winner's circle. I believe this is your first win on the broadcast. Is it, Alan?
I had a win at Daytona last season, but I did not do the interview.
Ah, indeed. So this is the first time in the interview in the Fiercely Ford
Yes.
car. So there you go. You're kind of getting pretty good at these restrictor plate oval tracks. Then you were good at Daytona. You win here at Chicagoland. Mr. Collins, do you have anything for Alan here this evening?
I would like to clarify. I believe that might have been the Daytona Road Course last season, but in either case, Alan, did you feel like the Tart Chargers on fresh tires were going to have something for you come the end there? Obviously, we saw Rashad kind of scythe his way through the field fairly handedly there. Do you feel like that was going to be a bigger risk coming into that race, or did you just have to kind of play the cards you were dealt, being at the front of the field and hold on to it for all it was worth?
Yeah, so new tires are very strong to charge through the pack. But yeah, I knew that I could hold the bottom line, and that would have been very hard to overtake me. So I was not very scared about that. I was just careful to be perfect on my racing line. But yeah, that was it. And I did not really care about the new tires of the other drivers.
There you go. It was all about holding the bottom for you tonight, Alan. Great run, great win. Congratulations. Welcome to the broadcast booth. The tradition here at P1 is you make the podium, you get the mic. So, my friends, family, shout out, sponsors, anybody you want to talk about for the next minute or two, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the first thing, thank you for broadcasting the race. I can thank Hamilton and Cabrizi for preparing some setup for me, especially the qualification setup. But yeah, that was a good race, and I'm happy to race with everyone.
Well, we're happy to have you here, Alan. Get out of here. Go celebrate. I know Kevin and Hamilton and the boys will be extremely proud of this one for you. So go talk to them and celebrate with your team, okay?
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, sir. That is Alan Bruteau. That was a really, really, really awesome race, Jacob. I was actually pleasantly surprised at the racing. It was packy, but it wasn't silly, was it?
No, it felt like you could get cars to kind of make moves on each other at the right times in the right places, and it didn't turn out too bad.
No, it didn't. And speaking of turning out too bad, Jacob, you need to get out of here, get in the virtual P1 jet and head for Kansas for the ISRA Sim Gaming Expo event from Kansas. That's going to be at 9:35 tonight. Remember, fans, if you like tonight's action, tomorrow we're going to have the Indy Open or the Indy Oval Fixed Top Split presented by Techtopia. That's going to happen at 8:15. On Wednesday night, we'll have the Horizon INDYCAR Series at 8 p.m. Thursday and Friday, it's going to be the AMA, the exclusive NASCAR partner for the P1 Broadcasting Network. The Blackmagic Studios Grand National Series, that'll be at 8:20 from Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Thursday, and then 8:20 pre-race, 8:35 start for the Premier Series in the AMA. That's the Archway Industrial Coatings Truck Series. That'll happen on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, we will be off, and that'll bring you right back to the Indy Open Top Split, 8 p.m. next week from Portland. And we do understand there might be some moisture involved, so do tune that in. At P1, we would like to thank everybody involved with making these broadcasts happen, especially Whiplash SimCams that provide these amazing camera angles. We do also want to thank the other people who make this possible: the first responders, the military, the police, the firemen, the EMTs, the nurses in the emergency room. To all of those who do the hard jobs in the middle of the night so that we can sleep soundly on our pillows, we thank you. Jacob, get out of here. The helicopter's waiting. Everybody else, we will see you next week.